Hi, I'm Megan. And this past summer, I was fortunate enough to spend 4 weeks in Greece, thanks to the help of Loyola Centre for Humanities. The program I attended was directed by a college year in Athens, or CYA, and was set on the small and desolate island of Despotico. It's denoted on the map by the red square. Despotico is one of the 220 islands that make up the Greek Cyclades and is home to a Greek sanctuary, which is believed to be dedicated to the god Apollo, as well as his twin sister Artemis and the goddess Hestia. Currently believed to be made up of 18 buildings, Despotico's sanctuary has been under excavation since 2001. The digitally reconstructed image here shows the main temple, building Alpha, as well as some of the surrounding architecture. Although the excavation has been going on for 17 years, archaeologists are still uncertain about the exact purpose of the site. Dating of the site shows that construction began in the late 9th century BC and concluded somewhere in the 4th century BC. The main structure you're seeing at the moment was dated to be around some 2,550 years old. Despotico was once connected to Timintiri and Antiparos to make a larger island. The isthmus made the sanctuary easily accessible for those that wish to worship Apollo or Artemis, and artifacts discovered within the sanctuary show that many chose to do so. Furthermore, the main temple was believed to be constructed out of Naxian marble, a type of marble only found on the island of Naxos. It was highly coveted at the time as it was believed to be the highest quality marble available. Yet despite the apparent importance of the site to those that lived on the island, there are no known ancient textual references about its existence. Throughout the site's excavation, there have been a series of curious yet important discoveries. Room Alpha 1 in particular housed a lot of interesting artifacts which were found early on in the excavation. Although most of them were dated to be from the Archaic period, somewhere between the 7th and 6th centuries BC, they were from a wide range of different countries, including Corinth, Cyprus, and Egypt. Many of these artifacts were oil vessels, such as the lioness head and jar, shown at the bottom of the screen, whilst others were drinking vessels, terracotta figurines, faience objects, semi-carved precious stones, fibulae, gold beads, and even an ostrich egg was found. It is important to note that almost all of the objects found within Room Alpha 1 of the cult building were found somewhat intact underneath the floor, which suggests they were placed there intentionally as a kind of cultic or votive offering. However, by far the most important discovery in Room Alpha 1 was this clay statuette. Estimated to have been made around 660 BC, this figurine, known specifically as Apollos, is the oldest cult idol to have been discovered on Despotico so far. Although the bottom half of the figurine has yet to be found, it is estimated to have stood around 2 feet high based on similar Apollos found on other nearby islands in the Cyclades. A colossal statue, also believed to be of a woman, was also found at the site in Building Alpha. Due to the belief that the Apollos and the large statuette both depict a woman, they were instrumental artifacts in naming Artemis as one of the sanctuary's deities, as not many other female figurines have been found on the island. Multiple kuros, a type of archaic statue, were also found at the site, and although they are mainly votive offerings, their uses vary, such as this kuros, which was used as a kind of doorstop. Another exciting find from Despotico is the escura of Hestia Isthmia, which was placed just over 3 feet away from the temple porch. The escura is made up of 4 processed marble slabs, with one facing the temple, inscribed with Hestia Isthmia in Greek. The inscription is irrefutable proof that Hestia was one of the main deities worshipped on Despotico, and as she was the patron goddess of sailors, this makes sense. The term Isthmia is used in the inscription to make reference to the isthmus that was used to connect Despotico and Timintiri to Antiparos. Although the site is very clearly a sanctuary, whether or not it was used for other purposes is a little hazy. Due to the size of the site and the number of buildings that are held within the compound, it is believed that it could have been used as a dining space, as a residence, or a general meeting place for those that lived on the island. Despite the lack of textual references to the site, those working on it believe that the small island may have played a role in the Persian War. When the Persians were making their journey towards Athens, it is thought that they may have stopped on Paros. During their stay on the small island, they somehow coerced the Parians to provide them a few ships to aid their invasion efforts, specifically during the Battle of Marathon. Then, after the Persians were defeated, it's believed that the Athenians attempted to force Paros and Antiparos into their empire. But when the Athenians were unable to break the tiny islands, they destroyed the temple on Despotico, as well as its contents. At the time, this type of aggression was unheard of and an atrocity, as by destroying the Despotico sanctuary, the Athenians were harming their relationship with their own gods. When a temple and its contents are attacked, any physical offerings, regardless of their integrity, are stored within the reconstructed temple. No votive offerings are allowed to leave the site once they've been placed there. As a lot of the Despotico artifacts, primarily those that I've mentioned from Room Alpha 1, were found under the floor tiles of the sanctuary, it is likely that the Parians placed them there after the attack. So the first 3 weeks of my trip in Greece were spent working on Despotico within the sanctuary. We had a focus on one of the main smaller buildings in the sanctuary, which was Building Row. So I worked on the site with 16 other undergraduate students, all on Despotico as part of CYA's program, as well as a small army of graduate students and professional archaeologists. Each morning at 7 a.m., we took a boat from Antiparos, where we were staying, over to Despotico. We then stayed on Despotico till 2:30, when we took the boat back, covered in sweat, dirt, and a little sunburn, as I am there. Then had lunch, relaxed a little, and then had an evening class, with each class being different, with topics ranging from an archaeology how-to guide to Greek offerings and sacrifices. So although all of us CYA students were thrown into the world of archaeology pretty quickly, we were given a day to adjust to our new schedule. Our first day on Despotico consisted of clearing the already excavated parts of the sanctuary, as a drone was coming the next day to take pictures of the site. This gave us an opportunity to familiarise ourselves with the tools we would be using for the next 3 weeks, as well as how to properly conduct ourselves on a site. So Building Row consists of a few rooms, so we've split into several groups and each given a specific room to work on. We're in charge of properly recording our excavation of the room, which included noting any finds we made, when we fully excavated a sedimentary layer, and taking photos of the room at the start and end of each day. The room in the middle is the one that I worked in. The majority of what we found in Building Row were ceiling tiles and nondescript pottery fragments, although in the second week we did uncover a complete amphora. In my room, all of the pottery was found outside of the entrance, which made us believe that it was likely dropped or smashed there for some reason. The condition of the building as a whole and what we found within it led us to believe that it was used for storage mainly. As we uncovered more and more fragments, we began to take shifts washing the pottery. This was done in buckets with bottled water that we had to cart to the island each day, and toothbrushes. We had to be careful with any decorated pieces, as we could potentially erase the delicate designs. So although a lot of what we found was not decorated, we did find this one lone piece of Athenian black figure pottery, which everyone was very excited about. My CYA professor, who happened to be an ancient Greek ceramics expert, dated this piece to be dated to have been made between 550 and 545 BC. So if you look closely, you can see the man's leg on the left of the shard, so that was very exciting. By the end of the second week, we had completely excavated Building Row and were given the opportunity to move into the main sanctuary. One of the buildings in South Complex, which was off to the left of Building Alpha, hadn't been fully excavated, and we were tasked with trying to uncover its exterior wall. This meant using pickaxes to remove a segment of dirt 6 feet deep, 6 feet long, and 1 foot wide. Despite our best efforts, we were unable to completely uncover where the exterior wall joined the rest of the complex. So I'm interested to see what happens in the coming years once the area's been fully excavated. So my final week in Greece was spent on Paros in the museum archive. The archive only holds relics from Despotico, some of which were discovered when the excavation began in 2001. The entire time we were working in the archive, we were under guard due to Greece's intense cultural preservation laws. The classification of the pottery involved photographing, and adding more important pieces to a comprehensive log. If any pieces were from the same vessel, we then had to glue them back together, photograph the complete vessel, and then draw it. This week really helped me put into perspective the previous 3 weeks of work, as we were tasked with sorting, classifying, and reassembling the pottery we'd been finding. It was probably the most rewarding part of my Despotico experience, as I was able to see that every piece of pottery that we'd found was part of something bigger and was important to the site's excavation as a whole. So as amazing as my time on Despotico was, I was fortunate enough to visit some other parts of Greece as well. Prior to reaching Antiparos, I spent 3 days in Athens exploring all of the major sites the city has to offer. The highlights of the 3 days I spent in Athens were definitely the Parthenon and the Acropolis Museum, both of which were absolutely beautiful and allowed me to finally see in person what I'd been hearing about in class for the past couple of years. And then while on Antiparos, we were also free to travel on weekends. So I was able to visit Naxos, home to the large Portara, which is on the right, which is a gate from an unfinished temple, as well as Delos, which houses a large sanctuary to Apollo. Then on my way home to Australia, I was also lucky enough to spend just one night in Egypt so I could go and see the pyramids, which was the perfect way to round out my archaeological experience. So I'd just like to finish my talk by thanking the Centre for Humanities for supporting me and awarding me one of their grants. My summer experience would absolutely not have been possible without it, and the time I spent on Greece working on an actual site has left me feeling secure in my future, and one that I hope to be spending as an archaeologist. But it also left me with some unforgettable memories. Thanks.